Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we are discussing the Omega Speedmaster First Omega in Space, also known as the FOIS, also known as the 1962, also known as the Numbered but Not Limited Edition. You can see this special series, Historic Commemorative Omega Speedmaster, and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Omega Speedmaster First Omega in Space limited edition. Now the watch pays tribute to the old CK2998, but it's not called that. That would be a subsequent series that is still going strong in the Omega catalog. This is a watch that was launched in 2012 to celebrate a privately owned timepiece rather than a NASA-sanctioned standard issue item, which is why you'll note the absence of the script Professional among many other changes to the dial. This is a watch that in its original iteration actually flew with Wally Schirra on the Mercury mission Sigma 7. The watch on my wrist represents a little bit of a throwback in proportions as well as outright design. The timepiece is a much smaller footprint across the wrist than the 42mm asymmetrical case standard Moonwatch, as this one measures 39.7mm across the round of the case from 9 to 3, not inclusive of crown or chronograph pushers. It does feature a sapphire crystal, a beautifully domed one, however, that's a little bit evocative of a vintage Hesalite, and you'll note the watch is reasonably slim for a Moonwatch style timepiece at 14 millimeters, I should say, but you'll also note that the cantilevered profile of the bezel means it will cause some dress cuffs. Not sport jackets, not suit jackets, but some cuffs beneath to get a little bit hung up. Now from lug to lug, the watch is a very wearable 47 millimeters, and since it's on a strap, it's going to be wearable on wrists as small as 13.5 centimeters without difficulty. For those who wish to accessorize before you even take delivery, the lug spacing is 19 millimeters. So put your orders in today. Now the timepiece is very true to its historic inspiration, far more so than some of the historically inspired Speedmasters of the late 90s, early 2000s. It's the presence of a dedicated case that really sets this one apart. But first let's talk about the strap, because the strap does change the aesthetic. We're most familiar with Moonwatches and Moonwatch style Speedmasters on bracelets these days, so to see one on a vintage style strap, especially an aviator's calfskin with a contrasting stitch, is a bit of a change of pace as well as a refreshing alteration to the common aesthetic. Now it is a surprisingly thick and substantial piece. As you'll note, it swells to match the arc of the lugs, so it's quite handsome. There's no constraint. You can pull it straight down. It doesn't get pinned against the case flanks. There's plenty of flexibility inherent. You can see the simple, historically evocative Omega logo steel pin buckle, and you can see that the case is quite a bit less complex than the Moonwatch case. Yes, you still have a little bit of a bevel, but it has far more of a straight lug look that is historically closely tied to the old CK2998 that Wally Schirra himself wore as the first Omega in space, the true first Omega in space. There is a satin finish to the flank and a polish to the bevel, so we haven't lost all of the contrast and lines of the contemporary case, but they have been toned down significantly. We still have the cantilevered tachymeter bezel. It's still aluminum with black anodized and calibrated up to 500 units, but the dial does change substantially. Now I'm going to get close and try to get everything in sharp focus because there are quite a few nuances here that bear discussion. By the way, there will be a fantastic loom shot at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Okay, first things first, outboard you can see that the hour indices have been extended, and they've been extended to the point that they overlap with the hashes of the seconds track, so they are longer and they project farther into the calibrations than you'll see on a current generation Moonwatch. A vintage Omega logo and marquee at 12 o'clock features no professional script because, again, this watch pays tribute to Wally Schirra's personal watch, which he took into space by choice, not by NASA issue or diktat. There's also a applied Omega logo at 12 o'clock rather than the printed one that is germane to the contemporary Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. That is an applique, in case you had any doubt. Now the hands at center are alpha style and loomed rather than the current style, which is baton and white, used on the Moonwatch. And you'll note that rather than the rather elaborate triangular index seconds hand used on the contemporary 2018 Moonwatch, here you have a simple historically inspired lancet seconds hand. You'll also note that the sub-registers themselves are a little bit different, and the real distinction is the constant seconds at 9 o'clock, which features an alpha style hand. So the watch is historically evocative on the dial, historically evocative about its case, and of course when we turn to the crown side you'll see quite a few changes from the standard Moonwatch. The bevels, the crown guards, the asymmetrical profile that makes the 3 o'clock side distinctly different geometry than the 9, all of that's gone. So you can see the full pump style pushers unsheathed, you can see the vintage evocative crown with nothing straddling it. It has a very distinct profile, and the watch really sets itself apart from the crown side. Now on the case back, of course, we're no longer talking about a Moonwatch, we're talking about a special edition, and we have numbered edition clearly delineated. This is so important to emphasize. Some people will say that this was a limited edition of 2012 pieces or 1962 pieces. No, if you see a listing claiming as much, simply not true. This was a numbered edition, so it does have an individual number, but you'll note that number is over 4,000. Production was limited by the standards of Omega Moonwatches and Omega Speedmasters, but it was not a limited edition in the strictest sense. What it is exquisite, however, is underneath that screwed case back, which, despite the lack of the crown guards and the bevels, nevertheless continues to impart 50 meters of water resistance. You have the true Moonwatch caliber. You have the Omega caliber 1861, 17 joules manually wound with a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate. It is a tank-tough cam or shuttle style chronograph with a lateral clutch, 48-hour manually wound power reserve, and this is critical to me on any manual wind watch. The sensation of winding it is an absolute pleasure. You can hear the click. It has just enough of a detent resistance and a spring to it that you feel like there's a truly gritty mechanical interaction that you're undertaking. It doesn't have that excessively creamy smooth Mercedes-Benz glide of something like a Longo 1. This is a much more mechanical and elemental experience. This is a watch, quite simply, that is a tribute to an immortal, but also has a strong identity in and of itself. People know the first Omega in Space limited edition. It's well regarded, its resale value is high, and collector interest is permanent and intense. It also has a formidable legacy, as it inspired many of the more historically true limited editions that came after, such as the 60th anniversary 57 in 2017, or 2016's CK2998 and all the iterations of that. This watch actually had quite a legacy beyond the year 2012, one that continues to be seen and felt within the Omega catalogs and on Omega fan forums the World Wide Web over. See and own this one, a landmark watch in its own right, on our website. Okay, the first Omega in Space. The Omega Speedmaster, first Omega in Space, numbered edition. You can see this watch is an absolute spectacle at night. Sometimes change is for the better, and the transition to Luminova makes our watches that much more practical than their tritium forebears. See and own this one by the light of day on our website.